Welcome back, folks, to the WP-Tonic This Week in WordPress and SaaS. This is episode 892. We've got a great interview here. We've got Graham Hoffman. He's the Managing Director, the CEO of BuddyBoss. We're going to be talking about all things BuddyBoss. We're going to be talking about BuddyBoss plans in the world of AI, how community building a competitor to some major SaaS community-based products, what it's like, what are the advantages of building something in WordPress and the disadvantages. It should be a great discussion. So, Graham, maybe you can give us a 10, 20-second pitch about yourself and what you do at BuddyBoss.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me on. I'm very excited. Been a fan for a long time as well. Our first date, I'm not the CEO. Before Tom kills me, Tom is still the CEO, but I have taken place of managing director at BuddyBoss. My journey, I've been a customer of BuddyBoss and a user of BuddyPress prior to that for many years now, since 2016. Began working at BuddyBoss in their support team, moved over to Success, the product, and then more recently, managing director. Obviously, BuddyBoss is the social networking tool building for communities on WordPress. And as someone who has used the tool for many years, loved it, I am very privileged to now be working here.
Yeah, I think because you're from England and that, I don't know, they should call you vice president.
Well, originally it was general manager. And
Yeah.
we talked about it for about a year in advance. We'd been planning this. And I said, can we just change general manager to managing director? Because in the UK, a general manager would be more like something of a franchise or a pizzeria. And I was just getting flashbacks of back in college of the general manager of my pizza shop when I was working there. So, yeah, very different depending on where you are.
Yep. And I've got my co-host, Kurt. Kurt, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. I'm very pleased to say that we have something similar there, Graham. I managed a pizza shop when I was in high school, the Riviera d'Italia. Big shout out to them in Philadelphia. But I'm Kurt Van Anen, and I run a company called Mañana No Mas. I work primarily with membership and learning websites and then directly with WP-Tonic.
That's great. Like I say, in this discussion, we're going to be talking all about BuddyBoss, what's its plans, what's 2023 been like. It should be a great discussion. But before we go into the meat and potatoes, I've got a couple of messages from our major sponsors. We will be back in a few moments, folks.
This podcast episode is brought to you by Lifter LMS, the leading learning management system solution for WordPress. If you or your client are creating any kind of online course, training-based membership website, or any type of e-learning project, Lifter LMS is the most secure, stable, well-supported solution on the market. Go to lifterlms.com and save 20% at checkout with coupon code podcast20. That's podcast20. Enjoy the rest of your show.
3, 2, 1. We're coming back, folks. Also want to point out we've got a sponsor of the month for December, and that's ending. That's OmiSend. OmiSend is a SMS text messaging plugin for WordPress. They've got a great history with Shopify, but they saw the light and they thought they would try and build a presence in WordPress. It's a fabulous plugin. They've also got a great special offer. To get the special offer and other offers and a curated list of the best WordPress plugins and services, to get all these goodies, all you have to do is go over to wp-tonic.com/deals, wp-tonic.com/deals, and you'll find all the goodies there and the discounts. What more could you ask for? Probably quite a lot, but that's all you're going to get from here. So sorry to disappoint, but that's life, isn't it? So let's go into it, Graham. So maybe you can give an outline of the evolution of BuddyBoss, and in your own mind, what is the problem it tries to solve for people?
Sure. Well, I know a few weeks ago you did a recap on BuddyBoss, but I'll keep it brief for those who haven't caught that show, and I highly recommend it. And thank you so much for all the positive praise you gave us back then.
You can send the check in the new year. Actually,
well, I saw Tom was watching and left a wave as well on the recording. BuddyBoss started working and creating BuddyPress themes back many years ago now. BuddyBoss as a company has been around for 12, 13 years. And essentially it was development based on making themes. And over the years, they picked up a lot of client work. They also started doing a lot of mobile client work under the umbrella of AppBoss. And coming up to 2019, they kept finding that customers were having the same problems, same issues with functionality. And ultimately, it led to, after a lot of back and forth with BuddyPress, but BuddyBoss forked BuddyPress and decided to build all of the stuff that we've been doing for clients into an all-in-one product. And essentially say, right, at least now we can control the roadmap and push forward with our practices and forward and going forward with this way. So that was 2019. BuddyBoss platform launched. At that time, as a customer, as I say, I was using BuddyPress. I had Boss theme, and I had my own mobile app. Actually, at the time, I built a Ionic mobile app on BuddyPress, and I switched all over in 2019 when we launched the platform. And obviously, that was kind of in a good timeline because COVID hit at the end of the year towards 2020 then. And we've seen incredible growth and incredible success from our customers. And we've continued to innovate, add new features, add more functionality, hit a lot of the requests from our customers. And, going into this year, we've had probably our best year yet in terms of how much we've added into the product and how much better the product has got. 2021, we released our native mobile app, which was not a requirement, just an additional functionality for those customers that already had a thriving community, but were really heavy on wanting a mobile app. And we built a very clever and smart app building machine, essentially, to take your BuddyBoss installation on WordPress, take it up to the cloud, compile it, and deliver you a native app experience for your users. So that, again, launched in 21. And now, so it's coming up to just 2 years nearly, coming up to our third year now as we go into 2024. And the main thing here is, what are we trying to do? Well, we're trying to provide a social engaging platform for you and your business, for your memberships, for your e-learning courses, environments like that. Learning management systems are a large bulk of our customer base, of those who are integrated with LearnDash or with Lifter, for example, or as of announced this week, we've just released our Tutor LMS integration. This is the perfect way to combine e-learning with social. And let's really be honest, that is definitely some of the best ways to hold your students accountable and to show success of your pupils, is that social accountability and social proof of people going through courses, rather than what we find with a lot of people is you buy a course, you get halfway through and you don't quite complete it. And there's no push for there, or it's hard to engage with your instructor. And this is where adding social functionality to your site works really well. And of course, from my own experience, I came from community building. I didn't have an e-learning background. I built a community that were not allowed to be on mainstream social networks. And again, owning my own responsibility, hosting my own data, and essentially being a place there for a safe haven for my community, where mainstream social networks like Facebook or X, it was not acceptable.
Yeah, I think you've done a fantastic job. I just don't think some people, but obviously not from a kind of developer WordPress app background, understand. I've always heaped praise on BuddyBoss because of the ambition of trying to build an app off WordPress. And I have not an active developer now, but I have the limited capacity to understand the technical hurdles and the ambition of that project. So I give a lot of kudos for trying to do something that's not easy.
Yeah, I mean, so I actually started the week of the app launch. Prior to that, being a customer, I bought my apps in the pre-launch the year before. And I had experience with another app builder, and I'd been experimenting with PWAs prior to working at BuddyBoss as well. And my first experience with the app builder kind of blew me away. All right. And I had to explain to the support team, right? I've walked into the company, got 50 support people. This is what the app does. The week of launch, showing them it all. And within 2 days, I showed them how we could build an app in less than an hour. Like, that is unheard of. But it's not just how quickly we do it. It's some of the most complicated steps when you are not a developer, like building your certificates or your provisioning profiles, right? These are words that most people won't understand or need to understand. BuddyBoss does it all for you. So yeah, it's an incredibly powerful tool the team have built. It's taken many years of development. You know, if we go back to pre-2019, when under AppBoss, they were building apps, you know, they were building it one-on-one for customers. And I actually engaged with BuddyBoss back in 2018 or 2019 about an app. And they were like, it's going to cost you a minimum of $40,000. And now we fast forward to 2021 and you can get your app for $2,000. Sure, it's per year, but that includes maintenance, includes updates, includes future functionality. So it makes apps a lot more accessible. Sure, you may not have every bit of functionality because it has to be built across the board, but there's a lot of functionality and a lot of customization in there, and we will continue to expand upon that. But the underlying technology is incredibly impressive. As someone who's not a developer as well, so I'm purely an end user. I was blown away.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. Over to you, Kurt.
I was just listening to Graham talk about the timeline, and I gotta say, it caught me off guard. I hadn't realized. It just seems like through our use and through our daily work that it's been around a lot longer than 2019. Like you said, 2019, I'm like, I was still working at Suzuki in 2019.
Yeah, platform 2019, we'll have our 5th year anniversary next year. So it is pretty crazy how far BuddyBoss has gone and changed since that launch of the platform. And the launch of the platform has definitely been a turning point for BuddyBoss. You know, prior to that, you're a theme developer and a plugin developer of, you know, BuddyBoss had 4 or 5 themes, 4 or 5 smaller plugins, to then essentially now just have our flagship of platform, app, and theme.
So with 5 years in, you know, you've had a chance to see your users and get feedback from your users and stuff. What do you think is, like, on a regular basis, what are people facing or trying to really accomplish in building their communities in your platform? Like,
yeah,
I'm stumbling over this question, but it's what are some of the challenges that they're overcoming, and then how are they achieving these successes?
Yeah, absolutely. I think with all of these, one of the biggest things I will say is our product changes lives. And we're not just talking the business owner, right? The business owners that have thriving businesses is always amazing to read, but it's also the tens, hundreds, thousands of users they've got where they've changed their lives, whether it's having a community that you feel safe in or doing a course that helps you change your career, feel better about yourself, especially with all the health and well-being with COVID now. You know, our product changes people's lives. And, you know, building a business is always hard. Building a social network is also extremely hard, right? The amount of people, and again, it took me a long time to get traction with my own community. It's not like you just launch a social network and that's it. It's going to take off, right? You're always fighting for traction. You're always fighting for engagement. We will constantly add features and tools to enhance that, but it also comes down to you as the business owner, your team, create engaging content and provide value, right? The tools can only take you so far. It's the value that you as a team are going to contribute that gets that. And I think that's the same if you're doing a social network, if you're doing a membership, if you're doing courses through like an e-learning site. It's the value is the most important thing. And we just are a tool to help facilitate, deliver that value and help, grow businesses and grow communities.
Nice. What do you think, as a follow-up to that, what are like some common stumbles that new customers might have coming to the platform? Like, how should they be better prepared?
Yeah, I think one of the first things is to realize your community or your site is never finished. The amount of customers, especially when we launched the app, and at that time I was in support and I went to customer success and I spent tens of hundreds of hours with people on calls. 1 week I had 40 hours just on customer calls, and the amount of time
Oh my godfathers.
Yeah, it was like, you know what? I'm going to take a call every hour of a day with a customer and start working through this.
How was your family life after that, Graham?
Well,
Did you need
still hanging
therapy?
together.
I hope the company bought you some free therapy after that experience.
Let's just say I make the benefit of working from home to balance the family life. and prior to BuddyBoss, I worked in London. So I was doing 2-hour commutes each way. So I was like, the extra hours at home, at least I'm at home. But yeah, it's definitely been trying times. And people at work always laugh. We have a lot of dedicated people that seem to be around day and night. But going back to these like stumbling blocks, the amount of people that feel like I just need one more functionality, I need one more feature, I need one more thing for engagement, or one more thing for bringing new people in. People expect change. People expect evolution. None of these businesses have been built in a day. Changing one thing is not going to change your business. It's not going to change your engagement. So I always say with this, and same thing for the app, when customers were trying to do specific stuff in the app, I just said, just launch, get in front of your customers, listen to their feedback, and iterate on the feedback there, and again, change over time. Go Facebook. It's not what it is today that it was 5 years ago and what it was 9 years ago. It's changed tremendously. Every social network's changed, and a lot of that is built on data-driven metrics, which is very hard in BuddyBoss. I'll admit that one up front, and we can talk about that as we talk about AI. But again, getting actual user feedback. And again, ourselves, our roadmap, we always say it's agile. There's a lot in our roadmap that's been there for a long time because we've not prioritized it, because we're listening to the customer feedback, we're also listening to the data, and we're saying, hang on a minute, this one's going to have most impact for people. And so being agile and being able to just move forward is normally the biggest thing holding people back. You don't need 75 or 150 plugins to achieve that functionality, right? There's never going to be a solid block. Just start minimum, launch, and then expand.
Like that. Thanks. Jonathan, over to you.
So how you're kind of I'm consistently preaching that through my other podcast, and the consultations I have with possible clients at WP-Tonic. You're in a death fight with Mighty Networks, aren't you? You got Circle as well, and I know Kajabi are entering this market to some extent. They bought a startup and they're integrating that.
Viber, isn't it? Yeah.
I don't know how far. I get mixed reports about how effective the integration. I don't know what their commitment is to it. But because I had a Mighty Network expert on my other show last week. Yep. And I thought I was very diplomatic in that case. She was a charming lady, and I was very appreciative that she agreed to come in with the devil. But you are in a death fight with Mighty Networks. So what do you think? And I think a lot of WordPress solutions and plugins, they focus on other plugins as competitors for understandable reasons, but a lot of the time they're real competitors of SaaS products.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you think BuddyBoss strengths are compared to your leading SaaS competitor, Mighty Networks?
Yeah, sure. I mean, Mighty Networks, incredible company, with a brilliant tool for what it needs to be and for the market. We have to remember, that company had 50 million in funding, all right, in investments. It's a company that had a huge investments. And if you consider that to the size of the customer base, we're bigger than them, which is crazy to think.
Wow.
Right?
That's an amazing achievement, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Kajabi and Teachable on the other side, they're behemoths in the size of there. But again, it's yes, we lose some customers to Mighty Networks or to Circle, and customers go there. But equally, we get a lot of customers coming back. And what was interesting when we launched the app, the amount of customers that came to us who had never used WordPress before and said, I wanted an app. I saw what BuddyBoss does. I've never used WordPress. can you help me teach? Can you teach me WordPress because I'm struggling with the actual WordPress before we even think about building the app? So again, the power of WordPress, right? It's ultimate customization. Anyone can do anything, and you can hire a developer and make as much customization as you want to. You're not stuck on someone else's land, right? So that's really the biggest thing that a lot of people need to realize is, again, you own the land there. You're not dependent on development. Sure, customers are dependent on us for development. There's nothing to stop you go customize it or get a developer in to build a plugin, or again, in the 250 plus integrations that extend the product that we work well with and have worked with BuddyBoss. So I think the main one there is it's having more power over your environment, also owning your data. You could take your data from one place to another without any reliance on there. One of the customers, and I actually did client work prior to working at BuddyBoss for a customer who moved to Mighty Networks to BuddyBoss. You know, it was a huge cost saving for them. Mighty Networks is cheap when you're on the lower end. As you start scaling, things start adding up. If you want the app, you're talking, I think the last I heard is $35,000 if you want the app. And so, yeah, there's a lot of perks to being on a network or anything on WordPress. There's a huge amount of power there and flexibility. Of course, the issues with WordPress, and again, it's not BuddyBoss, it's WordPress as a whole, is that you need to have knowledge of WordPress. You spend a lot of time in the business itself in terms of building and getting things prepared and updating your plugins and doing your maintenance and all of the stuff that comes with running your own environment, as opposed to with Mighty Networks or SaaS.
I think a lot of people, when it gets to a certain size, you know, having the I know you. I won't hold this against you because it's just business. You've just launched a special kind of partnership with a hosting provider at WP-Tonic. We're a hosting provider as well. But that's just life, you know. I won't hold it. I'll still send you a Christmas card.
I was not even going to mention them on the call.
But I think the main thing is people. If you're starting off, you got to keep your costs under. You got to keep your costs under control at any stage. But what I mean is, you get all these benefits, but you've got to be realistic. You know, BuddyBoss is a powerful but a demanding resource platform because it does so much. So it needs a lot. Your normal GoDaddy shared hosting account will not do the job. Your mid-range, even your mid-range e-commerce account probably won't do the job, depending on how many students interaction and the type of interaction. So quality hosting, but then now having a staging site, if you're taking people's money, you update things on the staging site first just to check, and then you update on your production. You just have some systems in place, and I think and some control over what functionality you're going to introduce. A lot of the problems are removed if you have the right attitude and you have the right systems. Would you agree with that, Graham?
100%. Couldn't agree more. Again, the barrier to entry for BuddyBoss or any of these kind of premium solutions is, yes, maybe there's a bit more of an up cost. Ongoing is cheaper. Having the right setup to begin with is important. Hosting is so vital for BuddyBoss, like it is for most of the LMSs. Anything with dynamic content with a lot of users, it's resourceful for a reason. You've got a lot of engagement happening. The more engagement you have, the more resources you'll need. We are working quite a lot at the moment on performance and stability, and that's on the app and the web. And we're looking at ways to cut down the amount of requests, which is basically what's happening when there's an engagement, to improve performance. But again, like you say, this is not the $5 hosting platform, right? This is going to require a setup. It doesn't need to be crazily expensive to start with, but you should know if you start running into slowdowns and issues, it's a good thing. It means there's more engagement, and therefore
you need to up it.
Up it, exactly. And I wasn't going to talk about hosting, but you're 100% right. Yes, we've recently produced our hosting solution. And that's because, again, it's hard to host dynamic content. And I know you guys are doing an incredible job. And again, we've spoken to customers that are on you. And I think that's it. If you've got the right person, and we've got people in the BuddyBoss Facebook group who specialize in hosting. And I will always recommend people like that who know what they're doing to host a dynamic site, because it's not static content.
Yeah, it's not. I'm amazed though, because it's not jet science either, because a lot of it is switching off caching, having a backbone where you've got the caching removed. You don't have it in operation on the back end. You customize it so caching might operate on some of the front end pages, but you don't. And you just have enough PHP workers. It's not jet science, but I think even the more quality general hosting providers, there's about 3 or 4 that I would consider. They will try and help you, but their model relies on a lot of caching, and you're just a small client to them, and so they try and be helpful, but caching always comes back. It's like a oh no, I'm not going to go there. It's like a disease that comes back. So
you're right. The minute you move caching, you need more PHP workers for requests. Most of these hosting companies are built where caching is where essentially they get to serve the resources with minimal footprint, which is where they're making.
And it works great, doesn't it?
For static sites, that's the perfect solution. Yeah, absolutely. It's when you want to refresh someone's messages at the moment of their, that's when you get problems, or when you want to post an activity feed, or go to a group. That's but when you need to have more PHP workers, more CPU processing power.
So before I throw it over to Kirk, got one other quick follow-through question. So, how in your own mind do you deal with something I've been continuously thinking? Not off and on, because I don't have many thoughts, Graham. How do you control the madness of WordPress? What I mean is all the benefits which you outlined at the beginning of flexibility, ownership, but you've got all these plugins, and people can really do a big dive. So they've got all these options, which is great. Options are great. Other people in WordPress have dealt with it by having what I call a wall garden. And a WordPress wall garden is worse than going to Mighty Networks in my mind, because you got the restrictions of Mighty Networks, but then you got the hosting and the setup and all the other things you got to do on WordPress. So you got the combination of both worse elements. You lost the flexibility of WordPress, but you got the overhang of WordPress. So how do you avoid a wall garden WordPress environment?
Yeah,
also deal with. Do you understand where I'm coming from? Because
absolutely.
Internally, this is ongoing discussion for yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, it's actually really interesting, because I've had a lot of meetings today about our plans next year. And I think one of the most important things at BuddyBoss we need to focus more on, and something we're discussing quite a lot today, is that first user's experience. We've seen a lot of plugins recently add really nice setup wizards. I know you spoke about it probably a month or 2 ago now about the Ollie theme with their setup wizard and the plugin for onboarding. For us, it's again, there's a lot of configuration, a lot of options, and we keep adding more because we want to increase that functionality. We have to address how we handle the setups. Obviously, we have what we would say is our default settings, but if you're already using the feature, we keep your settings as they are, and it's around how we train users to set up and have the best experience on there. It is difficult when a product like this, the amount of customers who've been with us for 6 months and go, oh, I didn't even know that setting was there. I didn't even know about profile types, for example, as a customer, a year into it. We provide as much documentation. We've got 1,600 articles. That's far more than you want to read in a sitting. And we produce high-def videos every single time we have new features. But it is a constant challenge. On top of all the WordPress changes, and every integration has hooking options on there. There's no easy answer, but I agree with you. You don't want to wall in the customers and start locking them behind functionality.
It must be very tempting for you to try and do that, but it must be a consistent discussion in the company. I think our listeners to this have the reason why we're bringing it up. This is more focused at the WordPress power user and professional. This particular podcast, so I think it's a consistent discussion they're having as well. So is it something you're always discussing in your own company?
Yeah, completely, all the time. I mean, whenever we're scoping a new feature, we always have to look at what's the default setting or what's the customer got now. And one of the things that, would be lovely to do is to, sunset features that aren't in use. But we're very hesitant to change anything that's already there. So whenever we're adding a new feature, we're always weighing up like, how's this changing the existing experience? Are we going to be removing anything away from the product? Because we don't want to remove something that's in use, even if it's in a small use case. So it's a constant back and forth. And I fully encourage any conversations with people who are using BuddyBoss if they have questions around integrations or around settings. Again, there's no pretty answer, especially when it comes to developers. We do our best to try to keep that open dialogue. We have a Slack channel for developers just to make sure they're up to date with the latest hook changes or functions, or on the app side, requesting hooks, because on the app development, you don't get the source code. You have to request hooks if you need new additions. But it is a challenge, especially as we step further away from the original BuddyPress code and into our own code base. Those previous integrations will now not work. So we have to communicate back and forth, which is, again, it's very hard with trying to still keep momentum and cadence with customers, with releases, but not having that knock-on effect to all the custom development that may have happened, whether it's just by one person or by a plugin author who's selling a plugin that we're now damaging the reputation of.
All right, over to you, Kurt.
Well, now I almost feel bad to ask my question, Graham.
Shoot, go for it.
Talking about new features and then just launch and don't worry about the features. And my question is, hey, a new year's coming.
Actually, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think it's best that we go for our break because I want to give Kurt plenty of time and he have sub questions. And we probably are up to the 30-minute. I'm sorry about that, Kurt. I didn't look at the clock. But I cut him in mid. But he will be back with his question and follow a few questions. I think we're going to go for our break, folks. And when we come back, I will throw it over to Kirk. We will be back in a few moments, folks.
Tired of hosting providers that can't handle high traffic loads? Conversio is here to help. Our platform can handle any amount of traffic, all without slowing down or crashing. With immediate Slack support, performance optimization, and a team that thrives on resolving technical challenges, your e-commerce business is in safe hands. Learn more about Conversio at conversio.com.
Coming back, folks, I rudely interrupted my co-host, but I didn't do it on purpose, but I just realised I'd rabbled on chatting with Graham and we hit the 30 mark and we needed our other spot for our sponsors. And I've got another sponsor for December. I've got Cloudways. Cloudways, you probably know them, another a great hosting provider, and they've got a great special offer. They're offering 30% off for 4 months and free migrations as well. If that's interesting, go over to the WP-Tonic /deals, wp-tonic.com/deals, and you'll find more information there about that offer as well, and a load of other offers. What more could you ask for? Sorry about that, Kirk. Back over to you.
Oh, it's all good. I can get my mojo back. So
unload both shells now.
I was kind of thinking of it from my question from an agency perspective is, you have this customer, they want this really cool social website, that the whole decentralized social is a thing. That's why there's things like Patreon and locals, and because you don't want to get censored off of Facebook when you're running a 5-day challenge, exactly. It doesn't work, right? So you have your own platform, and then you have these clients, to your point, that are like, oh, I wish it did this, or plugged into that, or did this other thing, or whatever. And on one hand, you're like, this thing is so amazing. It does so many cool things. It sounds like Jonathan's commercial. What else could you ask for? Right? So I'm going to ask, with the new year coming, what are some new features or anything that's in development that you might be able to share with us?
Sure, absolutely. There are some things I can share. I'll kind of just talk about the start of this year and about what we did this year. So obviously, as I said, I became the managing director this year, and prior to that, I was working with the product teams. That's our main development team. One of the things that had been very much stacking the product team and caused a lot of firefighting, a lot of inefficiency, was the amount of bugs that we'd accumulated over many years. And so we spent essentially the first 6 months of this year just bug fixing. And we're talking, over 2,000 bugs that across products of our platform Pro, theme, and the app side. So across 5 products in total there. And so we spent the first half of the year essentially bug fixing. And the goal here was always to add at least one feature or one enhancement every single month. And we did that. So again, it meant smaller wins, but it still meant a win. And then come into the second half of the year, bugs are all squashed, less than 100, and still maintained to date. Now it's time to ramp up development, and we spent a lot of time scoping. So the second half of this year was really aimed at the activity feed, which is the core part of any social network. And so we've spent a huge amount of time this year on the activity feed and some additional pain points in between. Group subscriptions was one of them there. That came aside of a new pain point customers wanted. We worked to address that. So going into the start of next year, again, if we think about strategically this year, we did bugs. One of the things strategically I want us to focus on is that scalability and performance. Now, I know that doesn't seem fun for a lot of people, but it is so important to users that your performance is fast, but you're not having to pay excess charges on hosting and going up tiers because we're inefficient with our code. And more importantly, we want to be able to scale BuddyBoss to even more users with minimal requirements. So we're going to be spending, the first 2 to 3 months of the year primarily focused on a lot of library updates, a lot of optimizations, reviewing code bases, and basically doing another kind of cleaning of in-house, especially if we consider this code is going back to 2019, and before that. And of course, some of the code base is still from BuddyPress, which we have been kind of over time organically updating and changing. Our notifications is an entirely new API for our end. So the start of the year is primarily around strategically getting performance and scalability, and paying a lot of attention to speed. At the moment, we're working on tasks that at least in our tests will cut the activity feed, so that's the main social feed, down by half, which will be huge. And so we're looking at a lot of this around performance. Our architects have kind of been told, hey, performance is top of mind right now, and we're going to go through a lot of time on there. We still have reactions to add, and this has been the bane of BuddyBoss since it got mentioned a year ago, or longer than that for a lot of customers. Reactions will be the next activity feature that we release, which again is almost a given for a lot of people with social networks. And then we're going to focus on, like I say, a lot more activity feed functionality, which primarily is all around performance side. So loading comments faster, being able to react to them. We have a big kind of overhaul of the way it looks. So in terms of just cleaning up the interface, we did BuddyBoss 2.0 2 years ago in April now, and that was a big update visually, and we still have some more enhancements we want to add to that, along with notification digests. So one of the perks of adding group notifications and group subscriptions and our new notifications is that our customers are experiencing more engagement than ever before. We now introduce a new pain point. Customers are getting too many emails because they're getting too much engagement. So one of the big challenges we're working on at the moment is digesting notifications. This will be if you've received so many messages in a short period of time, rather than sending them immediately, bulk them together, send them a nice email. Take that one step further, then we can have, a digest of your weekly activity for your customers or monthly activity for customers. Now, to do that, we're going to overhaul our entire email templates. Right now, they're still on the classic editor. We're going to blockify them and move them into blocks. And then that will give a lot more customization. And also that helps solve the problem where one plugin will send emails and BuddyBoss will send emails, and both of them look very different from templates. And it's such an annoying thing to see, but very hard to resolve. This will help now kind of unify these templates all in one place. So that's really the kind of the first quarter of the year of what we're working on. I'd hoped Notification Digest would be done this year. It's just not been the case. The more we unlock, the more problems we see, the more we go, you know what, it's better to overhaul the existing functionality and do it properly than try to hack away at some kind of half solutions. Then moving after that, we are looking at groups and forums will be the next one. Staying true to that social experience. We do have a couple of key projects that we're working on quietly aside, which I think is going to surprise and impress a lot of people. And then analytics. I mentioned earlier on, data-driven decision-making is so important for businesses. And one of the biggest things BuddyBoss suffers from right now is, as a user, you don't have your analytics. What's the trending topic? What's your users doing? Who's the most engaging? What time of it is? Google Analytics is on WordPress, but it's not built into the product. So one of the things we're working on with the team at the moment is, and we've already done the research into integrating Google Analytics, and we're looking at a few other alternative solutions for those who have GDPR concerns, is building analytics into the product at a much more detailed level. Again, think about the SaaS products, the analytics of levels they've got there. It's bringing that into BuddyBoss and letting customers understand what is happening in your business. Helps as a brilliant understanding of the return on investment in community, but also helps you understand when's the best time to post, what's common conversations, who's your most active user, what's your most active group. And so all of this will be very key. Next year, there's a heavy drive from my side through to BuddyBoss of making more functionality for the business owner themselves to be more successful. All the activity feed stuff, which is nice to have, is for your user, but it's not for our customer. Right? So it's really good for you on the social network, but it may not help you as the business. We want to focus a lot more next year on what can help you make more benefits as a business, which includes AI tools, right? Includes schedule posting, for example, includes analytics, all the functionality that helps you as a business have more success and have more knowledge about how BuddyBoss is helping you.
First off, I just want to thank you because that was a super complete, power-packed answer. And I just want to go back to, you were talking about the notifications and how that can be a bit much, but I don't want to lose sight on the fact, like I'm a LinkedIn power user. I'm on LinkedIn a ton. And I get so many stinking notifications and digests and stuff from. So it's not a BuddyBoss problem. It's a social problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's a thing. So yeah, if you could digest that down, that would be a really good, awesome feature. When you consider the ubiquitous nature of what social's growing to become over time. So I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, the cool thing. Just say the cool thing we're doing about it. Obviously, with BuddyBoss and the way it works is, a friendship request is one type of notification, messages are different, an activity post is different, forums are different. So that's the problem, is all of these are 4 or 5, I think we've got something like 20 odd different email templates. So that means if you get a message from someone and then you get a forum message when it tags you, they're 2 totally different emails. And this is where the complexity comes in. How do we digest it into one? And then how do we make that template editable by the admin? And then if you think about the user experience, okay, or let the site admin decide if you're going to enable it and what you're going to enable, but then let the user define, okay, I do want these digested, I don't want these digested, or I want it once a day, once a week, giving the choice. And we always try to balance that, giving the choice between the site owner and the end user to make sure that you get a good, happy medium result there.
Yeah, and I think about the folks that integrate with LMSs or other types of dynamic tools, because an LMS has a series of notifications and engagements, right? And then the WordPress platform itself has a series of notifications that go out for different things. And so all of that coming from the same root URL could be a little overwhelming to the standard user that's at home.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You just end up in the spam box after a while and nobody cares. So yeah, I can definitely see what you're talking about with the notification stuff.
Yeah, and if anyone is listening from the BuddyBoss group and said, oh, you've introduced group subscriptions and now there's another problem, I get it. All right, I do get it. Honestly, we do want to resolve this, but it's not a quick, easy thing, right? It can't just like, oh, let's throttle them all as one. It doesn't work as simply as that. We have to get it right. We can't afford to risk sending something that's not right with this type, because there's a lot of business impact. And some people want more and some people want less. And so it's striking that balance and building and as much as we always do, build as much customization as possible so that every business owner has the flexibility to decide how they want to use that.
Yeah, perfect. Jonathan, over to you.
Yeah, just a follow-through question, because you gave a very detailed answer there. Thanks, Graham. It just occurred to me, how do you deal with the judgment call? Because this is, just by the scope of your reply, Graham, it's you're dealing with a lot of stuff here, and then you've got the question: how much functionality do you bring inside a BuddyBoss, and how much functionality do you leave to other partner plugins like Lifter LMS, like LearnDash, like Tutor LMS, and like marketing automation? We love Fluent CRM, and we love their new booking plugin. We just love that team, what they're doing. Me and WP-Tonic, we just love them. But there must be this internal conversation with the mammoth that BuddyBoss has become. How much do you rely on third parties? But if you try and bring everything in-house, you become this walled garden. You become something worse than Mighty Network, So how do you deal with that discussion?
Yeah, so again, I think it's the whole, there is a world where sometimes we step on people's feet, but we do our very best to avoid it. So for example, prior to BuddyBoss having a moderation tool as a component, there was a third-party plugin. The problem for that plugin is it didn't work with our app, so we had to build ours, and we had other levels of complexity we wanted to incorporate in there. But for us, we want to work with the parties, right? Power of WordPress is the marketplace. The power of BuddyBoss is how open we are for development and integrations. So where possible, we try to just go, right, there are enough pain points and issues in our own product, and enough that we can develop inside that's only we've got control of, essentially. There's no need for us to roam around. Now, there are always customers that are saying to us, I wish you could do this and it'd save me this fee, or it'd save me on having this, or if you did it, you'd do a better integration that is in your core product. But ultimately, like, the dream of BuddyBoss could be so big. Like you say, even like Mighty Networks, their courses are pretty poor. The events is not great. And so we're never perfecting anything before moving forward, right?
I'm sorry to interrupt. That is the core problem of trying to become a Swiss Army knife, isn't it?
Yeah.
You do a load of stuff, but none of it is that particularly well done. And then as you add more and more functionality, that problem gets worse and worse and worse, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And so I'm sure we will do stuff that maybe other people have done in the past, or maybe we've done it because either it was part of our future roadmap of what we're trying to do and achieve in the future, or maybe we're doing it because they've done one feature, we've got 6, and so it's better for us just to do it all as one change. And so that's the point there. But where possible, we really want to work with these partners. And again, we have open dialogue with a lot of them. Much like you, I'm a huge fan of all the Fluent stuff. I've pretty much bought all their lifetime deals as soon as they launched, immediately. Fluent support is another great one.
Well, it's not that. It's also the attitude of the owner, his team.
Yeah.
The way they respond to their groups, their Facebook groups, they engage. It's very impressive, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we take that to Tutor LMS, how engaging their group is, their community, how engaged their developers.
Well, they're great people, but they're great people. They're great people, Graham, but they don't compare to Lifter. LMS.
Yeah, I maybe I'm doing my shill for the new integration we've just got. But again, it's the same thing with Lifter. I mean, Lifter, Paid Membership Pro, another prime example, right? All of these developers that we have core integrations with, we've got core integrations for a reason. We've got good relationships. We think what they've done is fantastic. We know it's a credit to the WordPress world of what they offer. And so, again, the pie is big enough. You don't have to eat each other, and you don't have to become this all-in-one. Because like you say, you close off the garden for functionality. You tend to do everything average instead of excelling in that area. So
how do you make that decision? Is there an official discussion in your company about there's certain areas that we will look at and we do, but there's certain bits that we won't delve into because we're gonna we're going to end up being this Swiss Army knife? Is there a kind of framework where you will look at something, or?
Honestly, we've never had to do it. In the 2 years that I've been at BuddyBoss, we've never needed to, because we've known our lane is, and we've known there's enough areas in our own tool to worry about it. I mean, we've always, whenever we look at stuff, we always go, oh yeah, there's a product that already does that. We don't need to look at it. And again, having used the tool and still use the tool now, I have a slew of knowledge. But also, we spoke about Jason earlier, our content marketer. He's a customer of BuddyBoss. Our product owner is Thomas. He's been a BuddyBoss customer. Our product manager at BuddyBoss, Mikey, he's been a customer and an agency developer of BuddyBoss, right? Having a lot of newer members into BuddyBoss who are actually customers for many years has also given us the knowledge of the wider WordPress world of there's already stuff out there. We don't need to recreate the wheel. That said, though, I mean, if you look at our roadmap, all that stuff there is stuff that no one else is doing, or no one else is, or it's like a one-off thing that someone's done for a client. All the activity features, I don't feel should need a third-party developer. We should be building it because we can grow to the wider public. But obviously, if you want to cut the queue and get ahead of it, then custom development's there for you. But there's a lot we can do in our own product before we start going too far away.
No, I just thought I'd ask you because I think it's the interesting bit. It's the interesting element that somebody like BuddyBoss being in WordPress doesn't face.
Yeah.
It's interesting how you deal with that, because Mighty Network don't have that discussion.
No.
But it's a benefit. It's a drawback, but it's also a benefit because you've got that enormous system of other developers worldwide, which Mighty Network doesn't have, do they?
Yeah.
And will never have.
Exactly.
Let's go on to
typical SaaS, though, isn't it? It's that if you're a closed environment, you close your doors to development. If you're an open development like us, it's a brilliant perk. Like I say, so many integrations that work so well. It's also a pain point. All right, so many integrations that either slow down us because we want to roll a feature out, but now have to legacy or maintain 2 versions of compatibility. And it's also, if let's say, for example, when Lifter add a new feature, if we're not aware of it, suddenly our integration's fallen behind, or there's a style change that we're not aware of. Again, for me, the perks have always outweighed the cons. It's just one of those things that we always have to juggle whenever there's a new version out, making sure we're ahead of the curve. Much like when WordPress rolls a new version, right? Every time there's a WordPress beta, we need to test first, because the last thing we want is our product to not work. And it's the same with all these integrations. For the most part, we try now to have third parties build the integration, not us, because then it puts the ball in their court to maintain it, because it is primarily their integration with us. But for all the core ones, like we've done with Lifter or LearnDash, again, it falls on us. It's another bit of an ownership and burden, and we just need to be conscious of those changes. But all in all, it's a much nicer environment to work with this way. And I think customers get to benefit way more, right? Because our product team can only do so much unless you're going to grow the product team larger to manage a new feature, a new tool.
So let's go on to AI. I utilize AI a lot. It's been very beneficial for me personally, Graham. I've got a suite of AI. When it comes, I think to say we're in the early days of AI around e-learning would be an understatement, but I see enormous possibilities. At the present moment, Kajabi's been playing with AI. They've got a free service where you're utilizing it to write content. At WP-Tonic, we offer Bertha. I actually probably need to emphasize that more, because we provide that as a free part of our hosting package. The AI integration in WordPress is there, Bertha, there's a couple others, but it's not been fantastic. What Kajabi is doing looks interesting, but it isn't. It just helps you write content. There's third-party tools that will help you much better to do that. Where I see the possibility, Graham, is obviously with learning. At the present moment, you've got the social element, you've got the course that Lifter, LMS, or Learn Dash deals. You've got the community element that BuddyBoss is so great at. You've got gamification because you've got these different styles of learning. But I see AI offering the opportunity of being an instructor that's almost there with you, that by your response to watching a video, by doing a quiz, by your interaction with the larger group through BuddyBoss, actually sees your progress and then customizes how new material will be given to you. Is that, and I think that's coming and coming quicker than what most people think. What's your own thoughts on this, Graham?
Well, I couldn't agree more. We are such at the early stages. We last year started building a list of how we could use AI in BuddyBoss, and I think the list is like 150 odd, and every day someone will come and add some more. There's so much opportunity with AI, both on how you run it, how you use it on the front end, as well as how you use it as a business for management. I think you're right around the LMS instructor side. Having AI help personalize the learning journey is going to be vital. Having the AI understand what you're very experienced at and what you're struggling in, and having it personalize that content to help you, excel in those areas and give you more knowledge in areas you're struggling with. It's just one small avenue that we could use AI for. All of the from course materials, which we've seen a lot of in that big drive. We've seen the big rise of ebooks recently with ChatGPT writing books for people on the Amazon stores, but the amount of courses that now let you add AI-driven content on there, I think that's a bit of a gimmick or a very early way of into AI. I think there's going to be so much more coming in the future. We're using AI quite a lot, BuddyBoss. One, our support team, especially those who are not native English, having AI helping them from speaking perspective. If you watch any of our tutorials recently, they're all using AI voice. My voice is all AI driven. No one else has actually caught this or said it yet, so exclusive here.
Is it you? Is it really you having this discussion with us, Graham?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly that. Well, funny you should say that. I was actually testing a tool recently, but I gave a recording and then it took my mouth, took it out and started speaking for me, which you can then put as a
There's a lot of people would like that to happen with me, Graham.
But yeah, I mean, it's an incredible, amazing field. And we've got a friend who's also starting a business in AI as well. And a friend of BuddyBoss that's talking and throwing us at some of the latest stuff he's seeing. But taking that to BuddyBoss, obviously, we're not doing any AI right now. And it is an area we're very conscious about. We're also aware that if you jump in too soon, like just think of what happened with OpenAI just a few weeks ago. All of those companies that lived off ChatGPT could have been closed down the next day if they didn't get that sorted with Sam Altman walking away and Microsoft and all of this. So it's going to be really, really crazy to see, but there's so much opportunity. So again, BuddyBoss primarily, the way I see AI, at least from a starting point, is using it to help businesses make better decision making, getting insights into community. Again, great. I've got these analytics. What do I do with them? All right. What can the AI help suggest and interpret? Not just the day's worth of data, but weeks, months, years. Talk about trends. Talk about what's working, what's not working. Start helping you refine what's coming. Of course, content creation to help find that stuff that's trending. On the front end for your users, if they're, let's say we've got Lifter LMS and we've got BuddyBoss, right? And so we've got a group in BuddyBoss where all your students are talking. It's associated to that course. Now, someone asks a question. AI goes, yep, someone's asked this question. They're in the course. I know all the course material and the answer was there. I'm now going to post it as a reply to them, suggesting the reply to them straight away, right? Having AI understand the question intent and suggesting answers, knowing what else is on your site, obviously with restrictions in place to make sure we don't start leaking other source material. Custom news feeds, looking at the sentiment of a question and maybe flagging it if it's a negative for moderation. Looking at what if someone asked before and let's start tailoring the content based on what they're asking or suggesting maybe you need to add it in this group or maybe you should do it here. Of course, we've got the whole friendship circles, recommending friends in the area or people that or topics on trends. So there's going to be a lot of data-driven AI in BuddyBoss, and I think that's, again, if we talk about how BuddyBoss is trying to help give the business owner of BuddyBoss more knowledge and more useful tools, that's going to be huge for us.
That's fantastic.
From the user side, it's how do we make things more engaging by using AI?
Right.
Sticking away from some of the more crazy ideas, AI voices, AI chatbots for now, just because, again, it's sticking to the core of what we know. But there's so much opportunity in the future. And I will say I'm super excited to see what happens over the coming years, because we are this first generation that's going to get to see AI so mainstream.
Right. I'm going to throw the next two fun questions over to Kurt. So, Kurt, you do the next two questions, and then I'll wrap up the show. So over to you, Kurt.
All right on. The next question, Graham, really just deals with, helping folks at home and that listen to the podcast figure out, how do the geniuses out there make things happen? Like, what are some tools and, maybe some services that you use in your daily course of business to make things happen and stay organized?
Is this across the board or AI specifically?
No, I'm across the board kind of guy. Like, for instance, I'm a Remarkable 2 tablet user. Like, I live on my tablet now.
We need to talk after this show, because I keep looking. Black Friday was teasing me for a long time, and I decided not to. I'm like, do I get a tablet? Do I need? It looks incredible. Well, I mean, I'm obviously we're a software development company, right? So our go-tos every day, Jira for software development, right? GitHub is where we do it. Most of us are using Google Drive. Our roadmap is product boards, right? This is the core of what we're doing. Slack is our communication of choice. Again, being an IT administrator in the past, I would have typically settled with most Microsoft products alternatives. But since we are Google orientated and, again, fully remote and everything in the cloud, that's really most of our go-to. I mean, personally, I try to keep it really basic. Obviously, ChatGPT is now permanently tabbed on the dashboard there for a go-to for us for a lot of things now in terms of just helping get things out. But honestly, my day is so much nowadays on meeting with different teams and establishing what's happening with the roadmap and planning strategically. I'm fortunate that I've been able to keep away from a lot of maybe some of the newer tech on there. So it's probably a little bit boring for me on this case, to be honest. I'm just looking through my feed now of what we're doing. Figma. It's kind of the normal stuff that most people use. I will say Spark. If you're a Mac user, Spark for emails, incredible with their AI integration to cutting down the amount of clutter you get. As you can imagine, I get a lot of, hey, you're a managing director, come and recruit, come and do this, come and do that. And it's like, oh, you've cut the noise down tremendously for Spark. Nice.
The next question, and this is usually Jonathan's question, so I'm kind of thrilled that he let me have it. And I'm sure you know what the TARDIS is. Yes? Dr.
Yes,
Who?
Of course.
Okay. I'm just making sure. So it feels weird to be asking you this one, but if you had your own TARDIS and you could go back in time to the beginning of your career, what magical piece of advice would you give yourself?
So this is interesting. Part of me wants to take me back to when I launched my own BuddyBoss community, and told myself to pull the trigger sooner, because, like I say, as I see that happening time and time again with customers, and I'm like, I myself may have been in a different place if I pull the trigger sooner. For those who are not watching on camera, I have this award on my shelf, and that is, a worldwide vote in my industry for best online community. And I would just wish I'd pulled the trigger sooner on there. That's pretty much if I had to go back to the time, it would have been when I did my business on there. Launch sooner, push harder, and focus on not trying to get things right, because it took me a good year before I launched. And again, doing a side little project on the side there. But I would say kind of pulling the trigger sooner on that one. And again, just focusing on offering more value than getting stuck behind shiny object syndrome. It's cool with all the bells and whistles, but start with just providing value and launching sooner would be my one too on there. Beyond that, though, I'll be honest, 2 years ago I was in IT, or nearly 3 years ago I was in IT, and now I'm here at BuddyBoss, and it couldn't have been more than a sweet journey and a a whirlwind of experience. So honestly, I couldn't change anything now. I couldn't have been happier working here. And again, changing lives, you know, it's such a strong part to me. In my previous job in IT, it was about changing lives in the industry, in the food industry, and making people have healthier decision making and stuff. So here it's changing lives for the better and helping our customers help their customers' lives, right? And I think we've done a tremendous job. And the success stories I read, there's that warmthness of this is a good product that's changing people for the better. So I wouldn't want to change too much, because if that timeline changed, unless I was that person running the business, I guess, changing lives.
Sweet. Jonathan, wrap it up.
Oh, thanks, Kurt. It's been a fantastic discussion, Graham. Hopefully sometime later on in the new year, you'll come back. I think we've covered a lot of really interesting topics. What's the best way to find out more about you personally, Graham, what you're up to, and find out more about BuddyBoss?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you both for having me on. It's been a lovely show, and I'd love to come back on again and talk more, and definitely talk about that Remarkable too. For me, you can obviously head along to buddyboss.com to learn more about BuddyBoss. I'm there most days on weekly updates, newsletters, everything's coming from me now.
But is it you, Graham?
Yeah, this one is me. Yeah, well, with
Right.
some handy copywriting skills and an amazing, incredible team around me. But it is me. Everything goes through, and I see it all. I get to juggle that side. But if not, of course, unlike a lot of people, my social network is pretty much open for anyone. So you can add me on Facebook, add me on LinkedIn, or just reach out to me at graham@buddyboss.com. Again, there's no hiding behind hidden profiles here. You can just add me at any time. Love to have conversations around community building, memberships, or anything BuddyBoss.
And what's the best way for people to learn more about you, Kurt?
LinkedIn is my social of choice. I'm also on X. So LinkedIn is Kurt Von Annen. I'm the only Kurt Von Annen on LinkedIn. So when you find me, you know you got the right one. And then name of my company is Mañana No Mas. And I also have a podcast by the same name.
Yes, you should listen to his podcast. It's fantastic. We're going to have an end of year show, me and Kurt, next week, where we'll be discussing our best interviews and the best plugins and services, the champions of 2023. Should be a great discussion. This has been fab. I really enjoyed it. We will be back next week, folks. See you soon. Bye.